Hey everyone, we are just going to jump right in today, so welcome. I am so glad you're here. And hey, a very special welcome to our interactive little disciple lamp sitting right there in the corner with us. You know, as a teacher, one of the greatest joys I have is passing down these truly epic, historical, and prophetic stories to the younger generation. And today, we are diving into an incredibly grand chronological story about the end of days. Now, normally, the traditional model kind of squishes everything into a single 7-year period, mostly based on Daniel's 70th week. But according to a really fascinating deep dive from the channel Revealing Revelation, the text actually unlocks a much larger, deeply interconnected 14-year timeline. And the wild part, it is all rooted in one single remarkable source, Revelation 12. So we're simply going to let this grand story unfold naturally, right from beginning to end, and we'll look at the historical and theological evidence exactly as the source material presents it. Our story kicks off with this striking verse. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pained to be delivered. Now, the woman in this text, she is a figure of massive historical debate. I mean, some scholars view her as Israel, some say she's the church, and others literally see her as a cosmic alignment of constellations echoing right across the night sky. But the source material points out something incredible hidden in the language here. By cross-referencing this moment with the book of Isaiah, the analysis suggests that before the severe travailing even begins, a delivery actually happens first. So impartially speaking, this specific timeline interprets that event as a pre-tribulation vanishing. The basic idea is that a specific group is safely taken off the board, so to speak, right before the great world-altering travailing initiates. It just sets this beautifully dramatic stage for everything that's about to follow. Which brings us to the first part of our story, the travail and the delivery, before the pain begins. So gently turning the page of this ancient book, we find ourselves in what you could call an intermediate era. After that initial vanishing, but before the true pain actually starts, the timeline identifies a highly specific period spanning exactly 40 days. During these 40 days, the source explains that the Son of Man arrives, riding on a white horse, right after a heavenly wedding. It's a huge moment of transition. But then we hit a very strict marker in time. Listen to the ancient Greek root of the word pained, basanizo. It translates literally to torture, travail, or vex. According to the source, this exact moment of pain signifies the arrival of the red horse rider, the one who strips peace from the earth. And that arrival, that is the definitive beginning of the grand 14-year tribulation. Everything prior was just the prologue. Now, for the younger generation following along, I want you to see how this flows. The narrative doesn't break at all. We move seamlessly from the pre-tribulation taking of the bride right through that 40-day transitional arrival and straight into the pain. It flows just like a river from the heavenly realms down into our earthly timeline. It basically sets the grand clock of the end of days ticking without a single pause or disjointed gap. And the plot thickens in part 2, The Dragon and the Beast, the Rise of Power. As our story marches into those 14 years, a really dark shadow falls across the narrative. We meet the Great Red Dragon, this fearsome entity with 7 heads and 10 horns. The timeline places a major global conflict, a third world war essentially, right at the start of these 14 years. Then, about 2.5 years into this conflict, the dragon appears and actually transfers his absolute power, his seat, and all his authority directly to the beast. For exactly 42 months, the beast is granted the authority to rule over the earth. And you know, this 42-month duration is a massive theological cornerstone. It heavily links back to the book of Daniel, detailing this terrifying era where the beast wields unchecked, brutal power. It's a time of immense trial, and it acts as the central pillar for the first half of our timeline. Next up, we have Part 3, Arrival of the Sun, the 6th year of seals. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs. I mean, the vividness of this imagery is just incredible, isn't it? At the end of what the source calls the 6th year of seals, those 42 months of the beast's authority come to a sudden, spectacular end. The Son of Man arrives in the clouds, bringing the wrath of the Lamb to strike down the beast's initial reign. And that fig tree metaphor? That's a fascinating piece of prophetic lore. It historically symbolizes national judgment or massive cosmic upheaval. Across multiple ancient texts, like the Gospel of Mark, Revelation 6, and even woven into the messages to the 7 churches, this specific celestial shaking acts as a universal signal. It marks the exact timing of the Lord's return to conquer. Right after this dramatic arrival, a profound rescue operation happens. Just imagine the sheer scale of this for a second. A mid-tribulation great multitude, so massive it's impossible to count, is safely gathered and caught up into paradise immediately after the events of the sixth seal. Remember the child in our original Revelation 12 text who was caught up to God? Well, this timeline maps that exact phrasing to this massive salvation event. It is a moment of pure divine rescue, plucking millions from a fractured earth directly into the peace of paradise, right in the middle of all this chaos. So our 14-year story actually divides quite elegantly into two massive eras. We transition seamlessly from the first 7 years of seals, which just culminated in the absolute defeat of the beast we just witnessed, directly into the second half, the 7 years of trumpets. We literally turn the page, and the nature of these global judgments shifts entirely, from heavenly seals to world-altering trumpets. Let's look at part 4, the witnesses and the war, the trumpet judgments. As this trumpet era kicks off, an epic war breaks out up in the heavenly realms between Michael and his angels against the great dragon. But down on earth, something equally profound is happening. For exactly 1,260 days, two witnesses appear. And wow, theological scholars love to endlessly debate their identities. Are they Moses and Elijah calling down plagues, or maybe Enoch returning from antiquity? Well, neutrally speaking, whoever they are, for exactly 1,260 days during the first half of these trumpet judgments, they prophesy boldly. They are practically holding back the darkness with their incredible testimony. But of course, the story takes a dark turn at the mid-trumpet mark. According to the source's calculations, this is roughly 10.5 years into our grand timeline. The fifth trumpet sounds, a star falls, and it holds the key to the terrifying abyss, the bottomless pit. When that ancient pit cracks open, just imagine the thick smoke of a great furnace rising up to block out the sun. And from that abyssal darkness, the beast that was defeated earlier ascends once again. He is resurrected, he is utterly furious, and he rises to wage a brutal war against the two witnesses who have been holding the line. This brings us to part 5, Flight into the Wilderness, a time, times, and half a time. So, with the beast rising on earth, Satan actually loses his heavenly war and gets violently cast down. Full of wrath because he knows his time is short, he immediately goes after the woman from our narrative. But in this stunning moment of divine intervention, she is given the wings of a great eagle so she can fly safely into the wilderness, far out of the serpent's reach. Now look at this ancient phrasing describing her sanctuary, a time, times, and half a time. For my younger listeners, this is actually a brilliant mathematical riddle. It translates perfectly to exactly 3.5 years, 1 plus 2 plus a half. For this specific duration, the woman is granted absolute wilderness protection, shielding her right up to the final breath of the entire 14-year story. Now, while the woman is safely hidden away, the earth itself is consumed by these intense final battles. Satan, who is just raging against his limitations at this point, unleashes water like a violent, devouring flood from his mouth to sweep away the fleeing woman. But the earth miraculously opens up to swallow the deluge and protect her. At the exact same time, the newly ascended beast erupts into a vicious war, and he ultimately overcomes the two witnesses. Referencing some very specific prophetic timelines from the book of Daniel, the source material impartially notes that this war of desolation, where the beast and the false prophet aggressively scatter the holy people, is appointed to last for exactly 2.5 years of the remaining timeline. Which leads us to our final chapter, part 6, the days of Noah, the final year. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished. Wow. After 13 arduous years of seals, trumpets, beasts, and flights into the wilderness, we finally reach the grand culmination, the final 14th year of the tribulation. At the exact start of this year, the seventh and final trumpet sounds. It announces that the long, complex mystery of God is reaching its absolute conclusion. Drawing from ancient texts like Zechariah chapter 14, the Lord returns once more, and this time, he splits the Mount of Olives right down the middle as his feet touch the earth, confirming a divine covenant for this final, defining year. So the seventh trumpet blasts, the Lord arrives on the Mount of Olives, and the era known as the Great Winepress of God begins. And they use the term winepress for a very specific reason. It invokes this highly visceral, ancient imagery of grapes being utterly crushed, representing a period of total, unfiltered divine wrath. During this final year, all the remaining enemy forces gathered against the holy people are trampled and permanently destroyed. The earth is methodically cleansed, which echoes exactly what happened thousands of years ago during the days of Noah. Now, if you are a numbers person, you are going to love this. The mathematical symmetry underlying this final year is just unbelievable. When you look at the ancient biblical calendar, which calculates a prophetic month as exactly 30 days, the flood of Noah lasted exactly 1 year and 10 days. That is a total of 370 days of cleansing. Perfectly mirroring this ancient cataclysm, the 14th year of tribulation, which aligns seamlessly with the 49th year right before Jubilee, also lasts exactly 1 year and 10 days. The wrath runs its exact mathematically appointed course. And then, on that precise 10th day, the Jubilee shofar is finally blown, signaling ultimate freedom, full restoration, and the definitive end of the 14-year journey. So as we close this ancient book and our story comes to an end today, I want to leave our little lambs here, this younger generation, and all of you listening, with a lingering thought. When that final shofar of the Jubilee blasts and the wilderness journey is completely over, when the time of protection ends, what will the new world look like for those who step out to receive their portion? It's a beautiful, complex mystery, and I really hope this story has ignited your curiosity to continue exploring these profound historical timelines for yourself. Thanks so much for learning with me today.